Hi guys, today I'm going to show you how to make a mold out of 3 simple home ingredients. Very cheap, very usable, and the best part is that when you make these molds, you can actually remelt them and use them again if you're tired of them. And what they turn out like are super clear. This is the mold, and this mold is of a Shopkin called Cupcake Queen. So if your kids are into Shopkins, you guys know exactly who this is. Anyhow, it's a perfectly clear mold, so you can see anything that you're doing in it. So if you want to do any of the funky designs, you can see anything in this mold. It's completely remeltable. So the ingredients that you need is, this is a gelatin, unflavored, so original gelatin. This is glycerin. So glycerin can be found in your local pharmacy in the first aid section. It's a skincare treatment. And water. 3 simple ingredients. These are better than the stuff that you buy in the craft store. So we're going to make a double mold today. So the gelatin comes in packets. So I'm going to use 2 packets of gelatin. This is 70 milliliters of water, and then I've measured out 84 milliliters of the gelatin. This will make a crystal clear mold. So what you need, what I like to use is just a masonry jar, and I just have like a thin dowel stick that I've been using for making these molds. So anyhow, to make it, simply pour your water. I always get those mixed up. Don't mix them up. You have to do water first. Pour your water into your jar. Take your gelatin. If it wants to open, we'll try that rip again. And then just mix it up really good. We need to get all that gelatin absorbed. You can have a look inside. This stuff is the best. I love this stuff. And then once all that is mixed together, add the glycerin. Glycerin's a little bit thicker, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that drain for a second. And I'm going to turn on my stove here because it's best to make this over some boiling water. Not boiling like rapidly boiling, but just boiling. So a hot water. It helps the glycerin and the gelatin to actually mold together. So that's that. And then stir it up. So it looks kind of like that. It does need to be heated so that it can form into a gel base. And these molds are super fast to make. So now what I'll do is I'll put it into my pan that has boiling water. And we'll just let that sit for a few minutes. And then I will be right back. So it's been about 3 minutes that we've had this in the hot water, and it seems to be doing very well. Now you don't want this on a rapid boil because you still want to be able to grab that jar with your hands. If it's too hot for your hands, it's too hot for whatever you're going to mold. So Anyhow, I'll bring this to the camera so you can see. It's starting to all melt together. It's the gelatin that you want to dissolve, basically. So that's good for a few minutes. Now, while we're waiting for that, I'm going to show you what we're going to mold today. My daughter was lucky enough to have found a real limited edition Blocky. And it's number 1003. And she's just totally in love with this Shopkin. And she's at school right now, so she doesn't know what I'm playing with. So to make the mold, it's very simple. You just get a plastic cup. Don't mold the tag. It doesn't work out well. And you put your actual item that you want to mold in the bottom of a cup. Super, super simple. And now it's waiting for mold. So when the molding is ready, I will be back. Okay, so this has now been sitting in the hot water for about 8 minutes, and it's just about ready. Once again, you don't want this glass to be too hot that where you can't hold it with your own hands. And this is definitely not for children to play with. So there's the molding solution. I like to let it sit for a few minutes, just because you never know if it's a little hot inside. You know, like I find it hot to touch on the glass down there, but not hot to touch up here, just hot down here. So I'm going to let it sit for a couple of minutes just to cool down just a tad so that it doesn't ruin any of the toys that we want to duplicate. So we'll be back in about 3 minutes. Okay, so it's been about 3 minutes and now we're ready to start setting our mold. Now because the molding goes into the freezer for about 30 minutes after you've got your product set, just so that these items do not go to the top. I like to put it underneath an ice cube, on top of an ice pack, and so that way your cup is getting cold. So you can always test your product by dipping your finger in. Now I find that still somewhat warm, but it's not burning and it's not going to hurt you because it's skincare products at any rate. So as you can see, our mold is now fairly clear and it's got like a yellowish tinge to it, which is normal. Sorry, I had to do a quick pause there because somebody came to my door. Anyhow, so what I was saying is that now it's completely clear and it's got that yellowish tinge to it, which is very, very normal for this product. So always put paper towel down to protect your dining room table. Ladies, you know, husbands, like, yeah, I can saw on the table, but if you put one craft thing on there, you're done. Anyhow, so I've got an ice pack underneath my molding. So I'm just going to pour just a tiny bit. Now, it's no longer hot for me to actually touch the bottom. Like, it's warm, but it's not burning hot. So it's now okay to use on top of a toy or whatever, because you never know what kind of toy will actually melt under heat. So I like to pour just a little bit of mold on the bottom and let it set for a second on top of the ice, so that way what happens is that it actually grabs the bottom of your item, so that if there's any kind of air pockets in it, it's not going to bubble to the top, and then it's actually going to stay submerged in the actual molding. So when you go to use resin on this, do not use a heated resin. It has to be one that just dries normally. The heat infused resins that you can buy in the craft stores will melt this and it will look terrible. So it has to be the kind of resin that does not create a heat to make it dry faster. Don't put it under any heat lamps to make them dry faster. They have to dry on their own because this is all heat absorbed. And in another tutorial, I'm going to show you how to actually remelt this down. So you'll see how quickly it actually does melt down back to a liquid again. So And we're just checking this. This is nice and cool here, so I would say we could put more mold in it. And if you're having troubles with them floating to the top, which this one is, figures, right? It's no problem. Just put your mold in, then take your little stick, flip him back over, and then just keep on pushing him down so that when it's on top of your ice cube or your ice pack, sorry, it's going to actually just hold it down there. So it takes a couple minutes to play with them, and this guy doesn't want to stay down. Of course, right? So we'll just leave that there for a couple of minutes, and then once I'll put the video camera back on again once it's solidified to the bottom so you can actually see that it's actually there, and then I'll put it into the freezer for 30 minutes, and then we'll remove it from the cup. We'll be back soon. Okay, so I had to wrestle with this little guy for about 15 minutes to stop him from actually popping up. So the ice pack really does help when you're trying to mold them. If you look, I haven't put this on a mold, ice or anything, but it's still very liquidy. But having this guy on here, it's more jelly. So anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and put him still in the freezer for 30 minutes anyways. He probably doesn't need 30 minutes in the freezer, but just to make sure that all that gelatin is set, and then the mold will be ready, and then I'll show you how to take him out. We'll see you soon. So it's been about 30 minutes, and now my cup is nice and frosty, but Blocky is still in the bottom, and that should have completely molded around him. So what I'm going to do is we're going to cut him out of that cup. Use an X-Acto knife, but please not near children. We don't want any accidents. We just cut the edge of the cup. Sometimes these cups are a little stiff. Slippery little guy. And then we just pull him out. He's completely pliable. See how clear he is? You can see straight through him. So then you take your X-Acto knife, carefully cut around the bottom of him for his feet, because you don't want to ruin the mold for around the base, because he does have feet. Sorry. Now his feet are completely uncovered there. Now I just noticed he's got like, okay, so my battery died in my camera, so now I have to just go off of the hydro. Anyhow, I have noticed that Blocky has little bits in him that some of this may have gone up in. That's okay. So we just pull the mold away. And then when he's all broken free, we simply just pop him out. Ta-da! Blocky. Enjoy!